Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About That, a Union University podcast. In this week's show, Ted and I have the most fun, informative conversation with our dear friend, Dannie Harrington. Dannie is a senior. She's graduating this May, and she has served this past year as our president of our Student Government Association. We love her insight, we love her wisdom, and we love the fun that we have with her. Thanks for listening, you guys. Enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome to the Let's Talk About That podcast. I am Ted Cluck, joined as always in studio by my good friend, my partner in radio, my partner in doing things for free for Union, Fran Thomas. Fran, we are joined today by one of my favorite students. You're not supposed to have favorites in this business, but I do. Doggone it, I can't help myself.
Yeah.
One, Danielle Harrington, student body president, comm arts major extraordinaire. Dannie, welcome to the show.
Wow, thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Now, I want to talk about kind of Apex Mountain moments for you while serving as student body president, which is going to be our title for today.
Yeah.
I feel like one great memory that we had was Awards Chapel. This was like a year ago. And you know, I always get nervous when I have to be on stage for those things because I'm like, who are they going to put me next to? Is that person going to be fun? Usually the answer is no. But I was up there due to being faculty of the year, solid flex.
No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. Just, you know, just another day at the office. And you were up there due to being student body president.
No, I was nervous. That was my first time like in a professional thing like that. First time carrying a banner, wearing the robe, going on stage. I was like,
you're doing a little chit chat with Dub and like the dignitaries backstage there.
Here's what's interesting about that is like from our perspective, sitting out in the audience and you are facing the audience.
Yeah.
But everybody's staring at you.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking at you.
That's the hardest part.
Okay, so are you thinking, speaking of lovely smiles, are you thinking about like, what do I look like right now for a solid 50 minutes?
Yep.
Yeah, every
people are
waking
staring
moment.
at me.
Yeah. So I try to fix my face in a rictus of sort of bemused interest. So it's like, you know, just kind of as you're watching people file by and like sing their songs or whatever, you just want to keep it kind of neutral positive there on the face.
Yeah.
And you want to seem interested, but not too interested.
Like not like you're staring, but you're
and you
just
can't just smile the whole time.
You hit them with a nod every once in a while.
hit him with a nod, the speaker.
Or you're
Yes. Yeah.
You're like, that was good.
But this one was helpful because I had you on stage, and I realized we were kind of far enough back from the proceedings that we could do a little ha-ha occasionally.
We did.
You know, we could
I
utter.
saw that.
Yeah.
I saw some of that.
Yeah, and it was fun. It made it more fun. For
I knew.
We talked about the music a lot.
I thought, you know what? I need them mic'd up right now.
Oh, man. Yeah. See, that would have been the podcast you really want. That's for the Patreon listeners.
That's the
Well, at one point, I like look over and Professor Blair is like sitting there with her phone, like a little proud parent, like taking a picture of Cluck and I.
I know.
I was like, what is happening?
Shout out A. Blair.
But she just was like, I just want to take a picture of you guys.
That's awesome.
Now, speaking of A. Blair, why don't you, Dannie, tell the story of how you became a comm arts major? Because this journey through college, and all kidding aside, when I think of you, I think of somebody who has arrived here and like gotten the most out of it, you know, just really taken advantage of every opportunity and tried a lot of things and been successful and done a lot of things. And, you know, I feel like your union journey, though, started in a very specific way with comm arts. Tell us how that came about.
So I came into union undecided, and during Welcome Week, we do like a academic department lunch. And I was communicated that there was going to be a group for undecided students. And so going in, you like go into the Fred and there's all the faculty with the signs and you're like, oh, like you feel so small as a student. Like that was my second time at union. The first time I ever was at union was during orientation.
Oh, wow.
And so I really didn't know.
Did you know anybody in that room, like a student? Or did
I just knew people who were in my Welcome Week group. And
so scary.
And I asked my Welcome Week leader, I was like, hey, where's the undecided group? She said, actually, they decided not to do it.
Oh.
And so I was like, I was like, what am I supposed to do? And she's like, well, what do you want to get out of this? Like, what do you want to learn from this? And I said, I think I just want to have fun. You know, it's Welcome Week. Yeah. And they were like, go with comm arts, Ted Cluck. He's a fun guy. It'll be entertaining.
Wait, who said that?
Rachel Dawson was my welcome week leader, and some of the other
Yeah.
leaders were like, "Hey, just go with the comm arts department, like Cluck."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay, sure." So I just like
she didn't really want to be there.
yeah. So I just
You're
kind of
making
like
me feel better now after the smile thing.
I just kind of walk over to the group, and you were like, "Hey, blah blah." Well, so then we head over to Jennings and we ride, and we're in like the TV studios where we're all meeting. But you were like, "Hey, like I got to go run to my office to get some stuff," and I just was like, "Hey, do you need help? I'm not a comm major. I don't really care what they're about to go say in that room." I was like, I'm not really sure what I want to do, and you're like, "Yeah, sure, come on." And so I like rode the elevator up, and we like bantered about North Dakota for a minute, about how you'd been there, dogged on Tristan, and then we
my son.
Go to your office, and we walked by this room that had a bunch of T-shirts, and I was like, "Oh, can I have a shirt?" And you're like, "Yeah, of course." And I said, "Actually, I'll get one when I become a comm major." And I wore that shirt. You can't see it, but I wore this shirt.
Stop
so after
it.
I became a comm major, I like came to your office or something, and I was like, "Hey, like I like am officially a comm major. Like, can I have a shirt?" And I cashed in that offer, and so now every time I wear it, I'm like, it's just so full circle. Like, here I am.
This is so good. I didn't know this. Did you truly, you were undecided, and then you randomly fall into this lunch thing, invitation, and then you've been there ever since?
Well, kind of. So I came in undecided, just like with my whole coming to Union. I had just moved from North Dakota like the summer before my senior year of high school. So everything, like I thought I was going to go into like music education and go to like a state school on a track scholarship, because I was on track to break our state records in shot put and discus. And so when I moved,
did not know this. I'm just learning all kinds of things.
When I moved, I lost all those things, which is a huge part of my testimony. But I really was like, well, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do anymore. And so I met with Miss Erin Slater in the CAS. And each week we would meet, and she was like, "What are you interested in?" I said, "Miss Erin," I said, "I have no clue." And she gave me the major list, and she said, "Cross off everything you're not interested in." And so it left me with like 5 things. And through our meetings, I just kept coming back to like communications. Like I met A. Blair and Cluck, and I was like, I kept coming back to it because you don't really have interactions like with staff. Like I feel like we hit it off right away, and I was like, man,
Definitely.
I was like, I want to be in a class with him. And here we are now.
And here we are.
And here we are on a podcast. So what is your major?
I'm just a communications study major.
Can I do you know what you want to do?
That's
the worst question to ask.
No, it's okay. I've been thinking.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I would love to go into the ministry in some form of fashion, whether that's like corporate in ministry or working with youth and college students. I don't know. I've had opportunities to lead a leadership team at Calvary with their college ministry. I now work with the youth. So I'd love to do that. But also part of me, I was just talking this morning with a friend. I was like, I'd love to like go into the corporate world. But also the corporate world gets so messy. So I would love to do missions. What that looks like, I have no clue. I've thought about working at Union.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Where do you know her? You know her through this side of her.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what's so incredible about Dannie is, and you can't say this about every student, but she really could almost do anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Where do you see her? Like, what strengths do you see in her? Where could you say, oh man, this really would be good for you, a good fit for you?
That's a great question. So I'm in this moment of, and you and I, Fran, are the same in that we're both really invested in Union. We want to see this work, and we want to see it work at a high level. And I've been in this moment of trying to like help Union collect and keep talent. So like when I see somebody like Dannie come through, I kind of am invested in trying to keep them here.
Yeah.
So if there was a job at Union that could lead to something bigger and better, like I could see you being, here your whole career, climbing up through the ranks and becoming a vice president or a dean or something of that nature. Because
looky there.
Well, I mean, you love it here. You love the Lord. Your relationship with the Lord is genuine. You're invested in people. I think a Dannie Harrington thing that you see right away is that any room that she's in is better because she's in it.
That's the truth.
And as a professor, I mean, I'm in the business of good rooms, right? And the class rises or falls kind of accordingly to how the room performs. And, she's always great in the room and brings the right kind of things to the table conversationally. So a lot of gifts there. And so my vote would be keep her at Union, but I'm not the Lord, so he'll lead you where he needs you to be.
Okay, I love this. So we're kind of thinking at the end, but let's go back to maybe more of the middle. There has to be, because you're a senior, you're at the end of your executive president term, which is so wild. Your final semester is approaching. There has to be some defining moments for you, because it's so bizarre. Like when you come in undecided and then you're like, oh, but looky here, now I'm a comm major. But you have just kind of like, you've come in not knowing anybody from North Dakota. And like here you have found yourself and you have grown so much in the last 4 years. What are some of those moments that you could look back on and go, these were so significant, so shaping for not just necessarily who you are now, but you know that this is shaping you for the rest of your life?
Yeah, some things that come to mind. One of the first ones was freshman year, spring semester. I was trying to figure out what to do with my summer. And that's a big conversation that's had at Union, is how are you going to use your summers? Big conversation at the church I go to, Calvary, of how are we going to be like strategically used for the Lord, and whether that's like in a job that you take or whether you're doing mission. And so I had applied to go with Nehemiah teams through the IMB to Indonesia for the summer. And that was all going well. I got accepted. I was on the team. It was just a few people who were going to do a bunch of like street evangelism, which I was like, this is great. You get to learn about the culture. You just talk to people, and which I love doing. And so I was like, yes, this is it. Well, March, we found out that our trip got canceled due to the people who we were supposed to be living with had like medical issues. And so I was like, oh, like, what am I supposed to do? Especially like, at Union, like missions is emphasized, which is good. I think it's important. And so I was like, okay, like I'm like the Lord's calling me to missions, and it has to be overseas. And so I pursued another like trip that was going to Thailand. And so I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to go. And I just felt sick about it, which was weird. And I had a lot of conversations with different friends who had pursued missions. I talked a lot with my pastor, and through that decision, I decided to, instead of going overseas for missions, to focus on local missions. And so that opened the door for me interning at Calvary for a summer, which grew my love for the local church, which I've had opportunities to talk about a lot, which is great. But I knew like the Lord was working in my heart for the local church. And I will always be involved in the local church, whether I work at one or not. That is clear that the local church is something that is supposed to be a constant in your life. Seasons come and go, people come and go, but the church is something
reminder.
That is consistent. And so that was really shaping, and it's led to a lot of opportunities to be in leadership at Calvary. But also I know that post-grad, like I'll be involved in the local church in some way. But that's one very big thing. Another thing like has been my involvement in student government. Because I got involved right away freshman year. I was trying to figure out what got me interested in it.
Did you participate in high school?
No.
So look at you now.
I did like student council or whatever in high school, which was completely different.
Didn't my son do SGA freshman year?
Yes, and we were on a food committee together, and we argued about whether or not you should cut apples. Like we did caramel apples, and we used your crock pot.
Yeah, wow, great. And you both climbed up through the ranks of Union student government. Actually, you did, and he did not.
No, but I was like thinking, what even got me into SGA?
Wow.
I have no
You don't
clue.
remember?
No, but as soon as I was in it, I knew like this was where I was gonna be. And like late freshman year, I knew I wanted to be like executive president, and so I had those conversations. Sophomore year, I ran for sophomore class president. And then junior year, I decided not to run for a position because executive elections go on calendar year. Class goes on a school year, so I would have only served half a term. And junior year's cardinal ball. And so I was like, I don't want to like mess that up for somebody. But it's been kind of crazy. And nobody ran against me when I ran for president. And they tried so hard to get people to run against me. But people were like, no, like this is like what Danny's doing. Like this is what, Danny's talked about since whenever. And which I was like, wow, like, thank you. And one of my good friends who I've tried to get more involved in SGA, they approached him to run against me. And he was like, why would I run, like, if I want to vote for her? And I was like, wow. But it's just been great, and it's crazy to think that it's less than a month, well, give or take a month left of this term. But it's been really crazy just the different opportunities I've had in this position to work with students and other student organizations. But I think even more I've loved getting to know faculty and different people at Union through this position where I wouldn't have been able to have otherwise. And to just like give back to the student body and to Union on a level that I think most students don't really get to have has been awesome.
No, for
What
sure.
are you most proud of?
As president? I think my convocation speech, there's a point where I wasn't going to be able to give one, which I was like mad about. And they're like, yeah, we don't know if you're going to be able to give a speech. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I've been looking forward to this since my freshman year. And every year convocation runs long.
Oh, yeah.
Which, whatever.
Yeah.
I have a lot of opinions about that. But I was like, I really want to give this speech. And, like, the Lord just really placed on my heart.
Hang on a minute. So we don't do this every year?
No, it happens every year.
So was it just like because it does go long that they would just have taken that part out? Oh, man.
Actually, they cut something else, though. Didn't they cut there's usually kind of a long solo. And I feel like that got cut.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I've just always thought that the SGA president always spoke.
No, it has. And I...
Well, no
Typically,
wonder
that's
you
been
were
the case.
upset.
Yeah, well, and so they just gave me a time restriction, which I was like, why was this not in place previously? And so they're like, you have 5 minutes.
Oh, man.
And I was like, oh boy, that's not a long time.
No.
I was like, I got to figure out what to say. And so through that, like, I was able to talk about the local church and sharing the gospel, which was like really just a fun opportunity. And I had a lot of crowd engagement, which I was really worried about not happening, which we talked about in class the other day. But I was like, people are like, no, on chapel stage, they're like, the crowd doesn't interact. Yeah. And I was like, I was like, I just feel like I gotta get.
Yes.
Because otherwise I was just going to go up there and it was just going to be like, hey, everybody, blah, blah, blah. And I was
Charlie
like, no.
Brown's teacher.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, womp, womp.
Womp, womp,
I was like,
Welcome
I gotta
to my
get.
life. You know.
I was like, I gotta get the students involved. So I did a little bit of asking people how their days were with the thumbs. I did a little bit where I didn't wear my chacos, which some people were kind of mad about.
They felt like you should have worn your chacos.
Yeah, they felt.
moment.
Yeah, they're like, it's just a Danny thing.
Now, we have a vice president at Union who always wears Crocs, and he wears them even up on stage.
Wow.
So
So
I feel like you could have felt
You could have
empowered
pulled
to
it
do
off.
that. Now, if you
Did
could...
you answer our question? What are you most proud of?
Yeah, my convocation.
The convocation. That's how we got onto all
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Okay, sorry.
for sure,
I
for
went blank for a minute.
I was going to ask you if you could change one thing about Union, what would it be?
Oh, man.
Oh.
One thing only. Da-na-na.
The thing that comes to my mind every time is chapel, but I don't know that I have a great solution for it. I think there's just not a lot of, students essentially don't want to be at chapel. A lot of them don't, which is hard because I look, and I've had days where I'm like, oh, I don't want to be here. Like, I have this test or I have whatever. But I've tried to get into a mindset of the Lord is going to teach me something through this. And it's like I always bring my Bible. I try to take notes because it helps me focus. But I just want students to care about the chapel and chapel speaker. And sometimes it frustrates me that we fly these people in from all over. It's like, oh, look at this person from Florida, look at this person from Texas or whatever. When we as Union always talk about the local churches, but we're not bringing those people in to speak. And I've talked to them about this before, but I'm like, we say oh, look at all these great local churches, they have great pastors, but we're not bringing them in to speak at chapel.
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag. I mean, you want to expose students to great speakers and authors and people, that we have access to from around the globe, but then you also do want to emphasize and celebrate the local church. So it's a tough needle to thread for sure. Let's go. We've only got a couple minutes left, Fran. Let's go favorite Union memories.
Oh, man.
Favorite memories.
That you can tell on a podcast.
None of them nothing the Thanksgiving lunch I was just thinking about because that was yesterday in Cobo. There's a lot of good memories with that.
That's so funny that's what you're saying.
It's just what I just came to my mind because we always try to get a big group of people together. Yeah. And in the new Kobo, it's hard to do a large group. Like freshman year was like when Kobo was renovated. And so, but freshman year for Thanksgiving, we had just a huge long table.
You can't pull tables together.
Yeah. And we just like came and sat, us itty bitty freshmen, and one of our friends' older brother and his friends like came and sat with us. Just some different people. And it was also during different frat week things where the people dress up. And so people were like dressed up in like onesies. Somebody was dressed up as a speed bump.
Yeah.
And so it just like all this
what
great.
If staff and faculty did that one time?
Like all these just great conversations, and it's fun to see. Like there's always a ton of people in there, and just to see like who people sit with, and to have a time where it may not be people that I talk with all the time, but it's like, okay, my friend brought this friend and this friend and this friend, and we just all come together to share a meal. I think there's just something really cool.
Listen, there's a whole, we could have Ted's wife in here, KK, talking about, there's just something really powerful that happens around a table.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so I think that as you know, now that you're saying all these things, I'm like, well, of course those are meaningful memories, because you think about the number of times you go in that place and have a meal with people, significant conversations are taking place. Then sometimes people are running around dressed up as a speed bump.
That's true. We do, here at Union, we do a brisk business in speed bumps. We're maybe the speed bump capital of the world.
We've added a few more recently.
Oh, I know. Just doing the Lord's work out there.
Slow down,
slowing
Ted.
people down. Yeah, that's right. Hey, you slow down. I mean, we're talking about vehicle-related things this morning.
Ziploc bags.
You know, I mean, nobody perfect at this table, friend.
No, I know. I'm very well aware.
Danny, this has been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been so fun. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the show. Fran, anything else to add?
I just appreciate her. I've said this to her 1,000 times. I'm very grateful for the fact that you came in. Maybe it seemed like you didn't know what you were doing, but boy, is it so evident the Lord knew what he was doing and how he has used you in such a mighty, strong, powerful, fun way. Yeah. Your imprint is definitely left on this campus. And I'm going to pray alongside Ted's hope is that you would stay at Union. I think that would be the absolute biggest blessing and gift to us. But if the Lord wants to take you somewhere else, we'll go along with that.
I guess we will. I want to say one more thing too. I think, you know, our society is obsessed with leadership, right? There's all these leadership academies and camps and ways to kind of position yourself as a leader. I really think you've led the right way. You know, you've taken advantage of opportunities. You've kind of let the Lord use your talents and charisma in different ways. And I think, you know, fundamentally, you're only a leader if people follow you or listen to you. And, you know, we have all these kind of artificial ways of making leaders, but I think you've proven yourself to be worthy in those roles and have done well and been faithful with what the Lord's given you to do. And that's a true humble leader. So happy to have you here. We get one more semester. Do you have a Cluck class next semester?
No.
Oh, man. That's tough.
You're going to have to end it well, whatever that last day of class is.
Tears might be shed.
Yes. Tears might be shed on this end of the table, too. But I think, you know, I'll give you an invitation. Door's always open. Ooh, so, you know, you want to drop in on a Cluck class in the spring. It's on the table for you. Fran, Danielle, this has been the Let's Talk About That podcast, and we will see you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. As always, we would appreciate any feedback or questions or comments. You can contact myself or Ted anytime. You can find our email addresses within the show notes. We would love to see you on campus. You can sign up for a campus visit at uu.edu and just search Campus Visits. If you're ready to apply, guess what? We've got a fee waiver code for you. Just simply type in the word TALK, all capital letters, TALK, and you do not have to pay the application fee. All right, you guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.